every year, one NHL player who displays the qualities of perseverance and sportsmanship wins the famous Bill Masterton Trophy. But the reason as to why the Masterton Trophy exists often goes unknown with more modern NHL fans. Bill Masterton was a skilled playmaker who worked the corners and was a class act team player. He also didn't wear a helmet like most players during his era, and that was extremely risky, as any hit or check could leave long-term effects if struck in the head. Bill would complain to his wife about headaches a week before his North Stars were set to face the Oakland Seals, and this was due to a nasty game in Boston. Masterton would get bruises on his arms and thighs, but he also unknowingly got a bruise on his brain as well. So little did he know that he was on thin ice when preparing to suit up. He was already used to playing hurt, as most back then couldn't determine if players had a concussion, but no one, not even Masterton, knew about the bruise on his brain, and unfortunately, that bruise would eventually cost Masterton his life. The night before the game, while celebrating his teammate's birthday, Masterton again complained of a headache, this time a migraine. Coach Blair wondered if he can get checked out before puck drop, but to no avail. Masterton was in, playing the Golden Seals, and carried the puck across the blue line, trying to cut towards the right. Two Golden Seals began to close in on Bill, and that was when it happened. Bill would get checked into the boards, and on his way down, he would hit his head, dying most likely on impact. One of his teammates stated, quote, "It sounded like a baseball bat hitting a ball," and a fan by the name of Ken Lindgren can still visualize the impact, stating, "It got deathly quiet." Team doctors tried all they could to help, but the swelling in his brain was so intense that they decided to reject an operation. Masterton's career ended the moment his life did, and his death sent shockwaves throughout the NHL and even the world. It was the first and only time a player actually died on ice.
Coach, of course the whole league and in fact the whole sports world has been saddened by Bill Masterton's death. What's been the reaction of your players to possibly wearing headgear?
I think that some of our players now are considering wearing it.
Soon, players began to wear helmets due to his death, and 11 years later, the NHL mandated the use of helmets. In 1968, the Bill Masterton Trophy was created in memory of Bill, and has been handed out on a yearly basis ever since. Thankfully, none of the other players in today's video have passed away due to their incidents, but in 1969, a fight would occur that was so brutal, the footage has been permanently banned and hidden by the NHL themselves. Since there's no footage of the incident, we have to resort to the very few photos that were documented during the disaster. During a preseason game between the Blues and Bruins, Blues Wayne Mackey and Bruins Ted Green would engage in a stick swing so deadly it was nearly fatal. Mackey would strike Green in the head with his stick, causing him to immediately get rushed to the hospital to undergo a life-saving operation. When Mackey's stick made contact, it would fracture Green's skull, sending chips of his own skull into his brain. Both Green and Mackey would be charged with assault, and it was the first time in league history players faced charges as a result of an on-ice incident. This was all televised thanks to WSBK in Boston, and the program insisted the tapes be destroyed due to its bizarre and frightening nature, in fear it could be reproduced. What's interesting is that this incident technically counts as, quote, lost media, and there are some smaller groups and communities who are still looking for an ounce of footage from the Green Mackey stick swing, but for now, it's been to no avail. Ted Green would be able to recover, but would only play 2 more seasons in Boston before jumping ship to the WHA, eventually retiring in 1979. As for Mackey, some could say he got his karma. He would get sent down to the AHL after the incident and will be suspended for 30 games, as there's no denying that Mackey's stick swing was one of the most vicious acts in NHL history. Another incident involving a stick would occur decades later to a promising young defenseman, and that man was Brian Berard. To better understand the impact this injury had on Berard, we need to go back. Berard was the first overall pick in the 1995 draft by the Ottawa Senators, and was traded to the Islanders in 1996 for blue-chip defensive prospect Wade Redden. Berard would go on to have a spectacular rookie season, recording 48 points, playing good enough to earn himself the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. After 4 years on Long Island, he would be shipped off to Toronto for Felix Potvin, and after having 19 points in 38 games with the Leafs, he was looking like a solid defenseman. But Then, on March 11th, 2000, in a game versus former team in Ottawa, after having a great season once again, Berard's life would be changed forever.
This is going to be a problem.
Sens Marian Hossa would clip Berard's right eye accidentally, causing an injury so severe that it nearly cost him his sight. His eye would be slashed on the sclera, resulting in a retinal tear and a detached retina. Despite the injury, he insisted on suiting up and playing, and after improving his vision to 2400, he would make his comeback during the 01-02 season with the Rangers, but would only last a year in New York. He would soon bounce around the league until landing in Chicago, where he would rejuvenate his career. He would score 47 points, and because of his dedication to returning to the game, he would win the Bill Masterton Trophy, once again being on top of the league. Sadly, Berard's story ends with the discovery of PED usage, but his incredible comeback story is one to admire. Doug Gilmour is a legend in hockey history and is beloved by many, especially by those in Toronto, as Gilmour's impact on the team was massive. But many often tend to forget that Gilmour actually ended his career making a return to the Maple Leafs, and there may be a good reason as to why. Towards the end of his career, Gilmour began bouncing around a lot of teams, but once signing in Montreal in 2001, he was able to stick around for a while. His Habs would make the playoffs, but would get knocked out by Carolina, and come the 03 trade deadline, the once 120-point producer would be shipped off for a mere 6th round pick. But the hype was still there for his arrival coming back to Toronto. However, it would be short-lived, as in his first game of the season versus the Calgary Flames, this happened.
Quickly from Vela, it goes to Domi. His pass was blocked. Vela now engages with the forechecking of Ugonna. Back to the point. Gilmour is down and tangled up there with Lowry, and both players are kind of crawling towards their respective benches, and Doug Gilmour has been hurt.
Flames Dave Lowry would collide with Gilmour, tearing Dougie's ACL, causing him to miss the remainder of the season, just one game back in the blue and white. That game would also be his last, as at the age of 39, the possibility of a player his age rebounding from an injury so severe was not very likely. Gilmour would announce his retirement from the NHL at the end of the season, and many were left wondering, what if? As Gilmour's injury saddened many fans league-wide. There's one more incident we'll be talking about in today's video, and this one may just be the most heartbreaking injury of them all.
Again, Vladimir Konstantinov in intensive care, life-threatening injuries. They believe it is going to take a couple of days, as we heard the doctor say, for them to assess his problems. Slava Fetisov is in fair condition with a chest injury and a bruised lung.
Yes, we've got a lot of Red Wings players here. We do have Dr. James Robbins, who is going to address us and update us on the conditions of the players, the Red Wings players themselves behind him.
One of the most well-known stories in NHL history is the tragic accident Red Wings star Vladimir Konstantinov would be involved in, ending his playing career. After a golf outing with the Stanley Cup, fresh off a Stanley Cup victory, Konstantinov, alongside of teammate Slava Fetisov, hired a limousine to take them home. Their driver, fresh off a suspended license for drunk driving, would lose control and crash into a tree, causing injuries to most of the men involved. But unfortunately, Konstantinov got the worst of it all. Vladimir would spend several weeks in a coma and suffered from serious head injuries and paralysis. Luckily for Fetisov, he was okay and was able to play the following season, but as for Konstantinov, things weren't looking as promising. The Wings would wear a commemoratory patch on their jerseys and wanted to win the cup for Konstantinov, and that year, they successfully pulled it off. What happened next, however, was one of the best moments in Stanley Cup final history, as Konstantinov was able to attend that night's matchup and would be brought out onto the ice in a wheelchair, being able to hoist the cup with his teammates. The Red Wings had one motto that season: believe. And that they did. Gary Bettman even allowed Vladimir's name to be put on the cup, making he too a back-to-back champion. Sadly, Konstantinov was never able to play again, but his condition has gotten better considerably throughout the years. Although having trouble speaking and walking, he is still always there to support the Red Wings, as he can still be seen at times in his own private box, cheering on his Red Wings. I'm not going to end today's video with some closing remarks, but instead, I wanted to remind everyone to never take anything for granted and to love and care for one another. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.